Hello, Pete's Packs here, and we're back with our fifth and final deck, commander deck for Strixhaven, School of Mages. This one is the blue-red Prismari Performance, saving my personal favorite for last. As with our other decks, we have 9 tokens and a divider in the clamshell. And in the deck, for the deck itself, we have a branded deck box for Prismari, insert, which is recyclable, a 2-sided branded 40 life spin down counter, the Commander Learn to Play insert, gives you the broad overview of Commander on one side, and then an overview of the commanders included in the deck. Okay. Now, one of the funny things about this deck that I remember, although there wasn't a whole lot that I got to play standard during this time. This was actually one of the easiest ways to get a hold of expressive iteration, and I think Prismari command. Pretty sure that's right. Might have just been Prismari command, or might have been Prismari command and Magma Opus. I don't remember. I remember this had 2 cards that were used for Hinata control later on during the standard. So let's sharpen that up a bit. So for our face commander, we have Zephi, Thunder Conductor. 2 blue and a red for a 1/4 with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, scry 1. If that spell's mana value is 5 or greater, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental. If that spell's mana value is 10 or greater, Zephi, Thunder Conductor deals 10 damage to an opponent chosen at random. So the name of the game in here is Chaos. We bring chaos. All right, then we have Varen, Voice of Duality. 1 blue red for a 2/2 with Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Varen, Voice of Duality, gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So this can be utilized to kill with commander damage pretty easily. If you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So for each time you cast a spell, this will trigger twice. And for anything else with Magecraft or anything else that's triggered on casting, it also gets triggered twice. So this is Panharmonicon for spells, effectively, or for Magecraft, effectively. We have some reprints from Strixhaven. We have Resculpt, Stormkiln Artisan, Elemental Masterpiece, Expressive Iteration. Yeah, that's what I remembered, was Expressive Iteration was in here. Rutha, Mercurial Artist, Letter of Acceptance, and Prismari Campus. We have Study Hall. It's the repeat that is in every commander deck from this set. That's for colorless, filters for 1 of any color, and then you scry X if you use it to cast your commander, where X is the number of times it's been cast from the command zone. We have good old Brainstorm. One of the best draw cards in Legacy. It's, of course, draw 3, put 2 from your hand on top at instant speed for 1. Great way to hide your combo pieces from discard effects. Good way to set up your draws. All kinds of stuff. Living Lore, 3 and a blue for a star. It enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Its power and toughness are equal to the exiled card's mana value. Whenever it deals combat damage, you may sacrifice it. If you do, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Very strong effect. We have Ponder. So good it's banned in Modern. So for a blue, look at your top three. You put them back in any order, and if you want, you can shuffle. Then you draw a card. Fantastic card all around. We have Serum Visions. So a single blue sorcery, draw a card, scry 2. It's basically Preordain in reverse, if you're familiar with Preordain. We have Traumatic Visions. Instant counterspell for 3 blue with basic land cycling, 1 and a blue. The old Treasure Cruise. So good it's been banned in multiple formats. 7 and a blue, sorcery, delve, which for each card you exile from your graveyard while casting it, this costs 1 less, and it's draw 3 cards. Quite often, this is a sorcery speed, Ancestral Recall. We have Faithless Looting, also so good it was banned in Modern. Single blue single red sorcery, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, flashback 2 and a red. That's a nice Dak Faden art, too. We have Fiery Fall. 5 damage to target creature for 6. Basic land cycling, 1 and a red. Humble Defector, 1 and a red for a 2/1. With tap, draw 2 cards. Target opponent gains control of Humble Defector. Activate only during your turn. We have Mana Geyser, 3 red, sorcery. Add red for each tapped land your opponents control. Now, in normal games, this is okay. In Commander, this can be massive, especially if you have a way of tapping down your opponent's lands, like Turnabout or something along those lines. This can be a lot of mana very quickly. We have Seething Song, 3 mana instant, add 5. It's a ritual that gets you +2. We have Crackling Drake, blue, red, for an X4 with flying. Crackling Drake's power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. We have Arcane Signet. We all know what that does by now. Hedron Archive, 4 mana rock that taps for 2. Then for 2, tap and sack, draw 2 cards. And Izzet Signet, the Signet for blue-red. Mind Stone, mana rock for 2, taps for a colorless, and then 1 and sack it to draw a card. It's basically half of a Hedron Archive. It's exactly half of a Hedron Archive. Good old Soul Ring, we all know what that does. 1 mana, single mana rock that taps for 2. Talisman and Creativity, 2 mana rock, taps for a colorless, or you can tap for a blue or red, and it deals 1 damage to you. We have Blighted Cataract. Land, tap for a colorless, 5 and a blue, tap and sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. I have Command Tower, add 1 mana of any color to your commander's color identity. We all know what that does by now. Dazzling Sphinx, 3 blue for a 4/5 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of their library in a random order. Inspiring Refrain, 4 blue sorcery. Draw 2 cards. Exile Inspiring Refrain with 3 time counters on it. So it's basically every 3 turns you draw 2 cards. And then it has to spend 3 for 2 and a blue. Muse Vortex. X blue, sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value X or less from among them without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled instant and sorcery cards that weren't cast this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's both a way to dig for a spell, fill up your hand, and dig for a spell and fill up your hand. Octavia, Living Thesis, 8 blue for an 8/8. This spell costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. Ward 8. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature has base power 8/8 until base power and toughness 8/8 until end of turn. So you can turn tokens into 8/8s, which is kind of sweet. There's Sly Instigator. 3 and a blue for a 2/4 human wizard. blue and tap until your next turn. Target creature and opponent controls can't be blocked. Goad that creature. It's a good way to play some politics there. Creative Technique, 4 and a red. Demonstrate. Shuffle the top of your library, then reveal cards from the top of it until you reveal a non-land card. Exile that card and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So, with Demonstrate, that can get even more silly. Fiery Encore, 4 and a red, sorcery. Discard a card, then draw a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, Fiery Encore deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker. Storm. That's right, this is a storm card. So this can get really silly really fast. Unfortunately, it's just for looting or rummaging, I guess, and and dealing with creatures and planeswalkers, but it's still very strong, as are most cards with Storm. Inferno Project, 6 and a red for 0/0 Trampler. It enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number, or is the total mana value of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. That's not number of instants and sorceries, it's total mana value. So that gets really silly really fast, and it has trample. Radiant Performer, 3 red for a 2/2 flash human wizard. Whenever it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, choose target spell or ability that targets only a single permanent or player. Copy that spell or ability for each other permanent or player the spell or ability could target. Each copy targets a different one of those permanents and players. This card can do busted things. I don't know if you've ever seen what happens when you are able to duplicate a kicked Right of Replication with this thing, but it is silly. Rionia, Fire Dancer. 3 red for 3/4 legendary human wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instant and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. They gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of your next end step. This, plus Living Lore or Inferno Project, can end a game very quickly. Rousing Refrain, 3 red, sorcery. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Until the end of turn, you don't lose mana as this. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Exile Rousing Refrain with 3 time counters on it. You'll notice that there is a theme here with the quote refrains, where spells get suspended after they resolve. It also has suspend 2, or suspend 3 for 2 mana. But looping those spells can be very strong. Surge to Victory, 4 red, sorcery. Exile target instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Creatures you control get +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that that card's mana value. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player this turn, copy the exiled card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Yes, this is as silly as it sounds. Reinterpret. 2 blue-red, instant. Counter target spell. You may cast a spell with an equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its mana cost. This is Spell Swindle, but better. Because it also allows you to get around timing restrictions. It's a spell, so that means like mana rocks, creatures, all kinds of stuff. Instant sorceries, enchantments, anything, any kind of spell. Elementalist Palette, 3 mana artifact. Whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, put 2 charge counters on Elementalist Palette. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Tap, add colorless for each charge counter on Elementalist palette. Spend this mana only to cast costs that contain X. Or only on costs that contain X, rather. Aether Gale, 3 blue. Return 6 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Aether Spouts, 3 blue. Instant. For each attacking creature, put its owner puts it on top or bottom of their library. Dig Through Time. Also just a fantastic card. 6 blue, instant. Delve. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Diluvian Primordial. 5 blue for a 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Now, this is another one that is just ridiculous to copy. Metallurgic Summonings. Alright, I remember this fondly from Kaladesh. Might have been Aether Revolt. 3 blue. Enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct token, where X is that spell's mana value. 3 blue. Exile Metallurgic Summonings. Return all instant and sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Activate only if you control 6 or more artifacts. This can do some silly stuff. Oh, Mind's Desire. One of my favorite cards of all time. 4 blue, sorcery. Shuffle your library, then exile the top card of your library until the end of your turn. You may play that card without paying its mana cost. Storm. Narumeha. Or Narumia. Master Wizard. 2 blue. Legendary Human Wizard. Flash. When it enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Other wizards you control get +1/+1. It is a 3/3. Swarm Intelligence. 6 and a blue. Enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Talrend. Sky Summoner. 2 blue, or 2/2. Legendary Merfolk Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 2/2 blue drake with flying. It's a token, of course. Apex of Power. 7 red. Sorcery. Exile the top 7 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among them. If this spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. Blasphemous Act. 8 and a red. Sorcery. This spell costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. Brass's Bounty. 6 and a red. Sorcery. For each land you control, create a treasure token. Charmbreaker Devils. 5 and a red. For 4/4 Devil. At the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Charmbreaker Devils gets +4/+0 until end of turn. This can end games very quickly. Dualcaster Mage. 1 red for a 2/2 flash. When it enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Erratic Cyclops. 3 and a red for a 0/8 Trampler. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that spell's mana value. You can see how this could easily just snowball very quickly. Itali Primal Storm. 4 red for a 6/6 legendary creature Elder Dinosaur. Whenever Itali Primal Storm attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana costs. Giant Ballard. 2 red for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. +1, add red. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells. +1, discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. -8, you get an emblem with, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from your graveyard. That spell, if a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So kind of gives your everything in your graveyard flashback. Sunbird's Invocation, 5 and a red enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less from among those cards revealed this way without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Volcanic Vision, 5 red, sorcery. Return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Volcanic Vision deals damage equal to that card's mana value to each creature your opponents control. Exile Volcanic Vision. So another good sweeper. This deck would do really well with like the common blue-red stuff like Wheels, and like Wheels would be amazing in this, especially Wheel of Fortune. Like Mana Drain would be amazing in this deck, and more fast mana, of course. Wildfire Devils, 3 and a red for a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a player at random. That player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard. Copy that card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So that includes you in this. So it would be 4 different things. Call the Skybreaker, 5 and then 2 hybrid red-blue. For sorcery, create a 5/5 blue and red elemental creature token with flying. Retrace. You may cast it from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. Epic Experiment, X blue-red, sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. Then put all cards exiled this way that weren't cast into your graveyard. Pyromancer's Goggles, 5 mana legendary artifact. Tap at a red. When that mana is spent to cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. Exotic Orchard. Taps for 1 of any color that your opponent's lands could. Scavenger Ground. Great colorless graveyard removal. Little Shivan Reef. Tap for a colorless, and also taps for a red or a blue that deals 1 damage to you. I mean, that's all the pain lands. Temple of Epiphany, it's the blue-red temple. Desert of the Fervent. It's a desert, so it goes along with Scavenger Grounds. Enters the battlefield taps for red, and it can cycle for 1 and a red. Desert of the Mindful. It's also a desert. Enters battlefield taps for a blue, cycles for 1 and a blue. Forgotten Cave. It's the red cycling land. Is it Boilerworks? Is the blue-red Karu. Lonely Sandbar is the blue cycling land. Mage Ring Network. Tap for a colorless. 1 in tap. Put a storage counter on Mage Ring Network. Tap, remove any number of storage counters from Mage Ring Network. Add colorless for each storage counter removed this way. This can build up a lot of mana very quickly, especially with untap effects and with any kind of proliferate effects. Memorial to Genius. Enters battlefield tap for a blue, 4 and a blue tap, sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. Myriad Landscape. Enters the battlefield taps for colorless, and then 2 tap and sack, search for 2 basic lands that share a type and put them on the battlefield tapped. Reliquary Tower. Old school staple of EDH. You have no maximum hand size, taps for colorless. Symbol of False God. When you have 5 lands, taps for 2. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 islands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mountains. You've got the cardboard version of your face commander. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 2/2 flying Drake tokens, and each of those are also elementals. Then we have 4 treasure tokens with constructs on the back. Yeah. And then we have 2 5/5 flying elementals that are copy tokens on the back. Very nice. You have a turn reminder. Wow, that is a really good starting point. There are a lot of different avenues that you could take for upgrading this. Like I said, definitely want more fast mana. Wheel effects would be amazing, especially since you're playing a lot of stuff out of your opponent's graveyards. And it really cares about instants and sorceries you have in your graveyards. And also a few where even if it gets exiled, it's fine. Like another natural path for upgrade would be like Murktide Regent or Dragon Rage Channeler. Those would be good enablers to put in here. Just really solid starting point, and I highly recommend this if you like doing nutty things. So it's a very good place to start. Also, the mana base definitely could use upgrades. Shocklands, fetches, stuff like that. I could even see. I'm not sure if you can play Triomes and 2-color decks, but if you can, that would be a good path too. But yeah. Well, thank you for joining me on this adventure. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel in a non-monetary fashion. If you'd like to help out in a monetary fashion, we also have a Patreon. It is linked in our About page. Gives you access to some cool stuff like our Discord, and really helps us out. But until next time, stay awesome, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.